Hello friends. Welcome to Books Soul, where we bring the soul of books to life. Today, we dive into the mesmerizing world of Raw by Nagnath S, Inamdar, a celebrated Marathi historical novel that takes us back to the 18th century. Get ready to explore the grandeur of the Maratha Empire, the unmatched valor of Peshwa Bajirao, and the timeless love story of Bajirao and Mastani. This isn't just a story, it's a saga of ambition, power, love, and sacrifice. So, grab a seat, stay tuned, and let's unravel the legacy of Raw. Are you ready? Let's begin. Chapter 1: Bajirao's Rise to Power as the Peshwa. Nagnath S. Inamdar's masterpiece Raw begins with a vivid depiction of an era brimming with ambition, valor, and the undying spirit of the Marathas. Set in the 18th century, the book transports us into the powerful yet turbulent world of the Maratha Empire, an empire at the height of its expansion under the visionary leadership of Chhatrapati Shahu Maharaj. Amid this glorious backdrop, a young, ambitious, and brilliant military strategist emerges, Bajirao Ballal. A man destined to redefine the destiny of the Marathas. A prodigy born in the shadows of greatness. Born into the prestigious yet humble Bhatt family, Bajirao inherited a legacy of service to the Maratha Empire. His father, Balaji Vishwanath, was an astute statesman who had played a pivotal role in stabilizing the empire under Shahu Maharaj. And Bajirao. From a young age, he showed remarkable intelligence, unmatched courage, and an uncanny ability to grasp the complexities of military strategy, traits that set him apart even as a boy. Can you imagine the determination of a child mastering both statecraft and combat? The novel vividly paints Bajirao's early years, his rigorous education, his relentless combat training, and his growing confidence. Under the guidance of skilled mentors, he became a prodigy, a rare combination of intellect and bravery. The turning point: appointment as Peshwa. Then comes the turning point. The untimely demise of Balaji Vishwanath leaves the Maratha court in turmoil. Who would fill the role of Peshwa? Who could shoulder such immense responsibility at such a young age? Despite being just 20 years old, Bajirao's exceptional abilities and lineage make him the obvious choice. But it wasn't easy. His appointment faced skepticism from seasoned ministers and generals. Could this young man lead the mighty Maratha Empire? In one of the most dramatic moments in the novel, Bajirao rises to the occasion with an impassioned speech. His words echo through Shahu Maharaj's court. Hindustan ka dil par Maratha ka shashan hoga. The heart of Hindustan will be ruled by the Marathas. Such confidence. Such vision. This declaration not only silences his critics, but also sets the tone for Bajirao's legendary journey. The challenges of leadership. Bajirao's early days as Peshwa were fraught with challenges. Imagine facing entrenched opposition from within the Maratha court, older ministers doubting his every move, calling him impulsive and inexperienced. But Bajirao, with his sharp intellect and unyielding dedication, began to win them over, one by one. The first major test of his leadership came with the threat from the Nizam of Hyderabad. How could a young, untested leader counter such a formidable adversary? Yet, Bajirao's strategic brilliance shone through. With audacity and courage, he devised a plan to outmaneuver the Nizam's forces, and he led his troops to a decisive victory. Can you feel the pride of the Maratha Empire in that moment? A visionary beyond his time. Bajirao was not just a warrior, he was a visionary. While many leaders of his time focused on defending their territories, Bajirao believed in expansionism. Offensive strategies, rapid mobility, and precision strikes became his trademarks. Imagine the boldness of introducing light cavalry, a tactic that allowed the Maratha army to cover vast distances and strike with lightning speed. It was revolutionary. This innovation made the Marathas one of the most formidable forces of the time, paving the way for their dominance in northern India. The personal struggles of a leader. Behind the glory, however, lay personal struggles. At just 20 years old, Bajirao bore the weight of an entire empire. Can you imagine the immense pressure, the constant need to prove himself? Inamdar doesn't shy away from portraying Bajirao's human side. He grappled with self-doubt, loneliness, and the unrelenting demands of leadership. His relationship with his family, especially his mother and siblings, added layers of complexity to his journey. How could they navigate the shifting dynamics of power and society while supporting Bajirao's ambitions? A new era begins. The chapter ends on a high note. Bajirao firmly establishes himself as the Peshwa, silencing critics and inspiring loyalty among his troops and allies. His victories and innovations signal the dawn of a new era for the Maratha Empire. Under Bajirao's leadership, the Marathas transitioned from a regional power to a force that dominated the Indian subcontinent. His journey, marked by courage, brilliance, and indomitable spirit, sets the stage for the epic tale of love, conflict, and ambition that unfolds in raw. Conclusion. Can you see it now? Nagnath S. Inamdar's portrayal of Bajirao's rise to power is nothing short of magnificent. Through powerful storytelling and rich historical detail, the author brings to life the early years of one of India's greatest leaders. This chapter, with its blend of political intrigue, military brilliance, and personal struggle, captures the essence of Bajirao's rise. It's the perfect opening to a story that celebrates the undying spirit of the Marathas. Chapter 2: Early Military Campaigns and Bajirao's Role in Expanding the Maratha Empire. In Nagnath S. Inamdar's Raw, the second chapter bursts into action with the same intensity and grandeur that defines Bajirao's life. After rising to power as the Peshwa at the tender age of 20, Bajirao wastes no time proving that his leadership is not a matter of inheritance alone, but of unparalleled genius and daring vision. A nation at the crossroads. The Maratha Empire, while formidable, was surrounded by threats. The remnants of the Mughal Empire in Delhi were still scheming to reclaim their lost glory. The Nizam of Hyderabad sought to weaken the Marathas, while the Portuguese and British powers hovered like vultures, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Amidst this chaos, the newly appointed Peshwa Bajirao faced his first true test. Could he secure the Maratha borders and expand their dominion? Would this young leader rise above the odds? With fiery determination and a mind teeming with strategies, Bajirao embraced the challenge, vowing not just to protect the Maratha Empire but to ensure its place as the heart of Hindustan. A Maratha must rule not by fear but by dominance. Bajirao declared, his words igniting the spirit of his followers like wildfire. The Call to Arms. The chapter dives into Bajirao's early military campaigns, where his brilliance as a tactician becomes evident. One of his earliest challenges came from the Nizam of Hyderabad, a seasoned adversary who underestimated Bajirao's audacity. The young Peshwa, however, was not one to be intimidated. In a dramatic series of events, Bajirao leads a swift and decisive campaign against the Nizam's forces. Imagine the battlefield, dust rising from the galloping hooves of Maratha cavalry, the clash of swords echoing in the air, and Bajirao at the helm, commanding his troops with precision and fervor. His light cavalry, a revolutionary concept in Indian warfare, outmaneuvered the Nizam's heavily armed forces with breathtaking speed and agility. The result? A resounding victory that not only secured the Maratha territories but sent a clear message to their enemies. Bajirao was not a leader to be trifled with. The vision of an expanding empire. But Bajirao's ambition didn't stop at securing the Maratha borders. Why stop when we can expand? He asked his council, his words brimming with confidence and vision. Bajirao believed that the Marathas were destined to dominate the heart of India, and he set his sights on the northern regions, long considered the stronghold of the Mughal Empire. His campaigns were marked by a boldness that bordered on audacity. Bajirao wasn't just a warrior, he was a master of psychological warfare. He understood the importance of striking fear into the hearts of his enemies even before the first blow was struck. Stories of his swift movements, unpredictable tactics, and unwavering resolve spread like wildfire, leaving his opponents in awe and panic. The campaigns in Malwa and Bundelkhand. One of Bajirao's most remarkable campaigns was in Malwa, a region that had long been under Mughal influence. Leading a small but highly efficient force, Bajirao stormed into Malwa, cutting through the enemy defenses like a thunderbolt. His ability to adapt to changing circumstances on the battlefield was nothing short of genius. Malwa fell into Maratha hands, marking the beginning of their dominance in northern India. And this was just the beginning. Bajirao's campaigns in Bundelkhand further cemented his reputation as a leader who could achieve the impossible. His alliance with Chhatrasal Bundela, a local king struggling against Mughal oppression, is a testament to Bajirao's diplomatic brilliance. Together, they routed the Mughal forces, ensuring that Bundelkhand became a loyal ally of the Maratha Empire. A revolutionary in warfare. What made Bajirao's military campaigns so extraordinary? It was his innovative approach to warfare. At a time when battles were fought with large, slow-moving armies, Bajirao introduced the concept of mobility and precision. His light cavalry, capable of covering vast distances in record time, became the backbone of his campaigns. Bajirao's soldiers could strike deep into enemy territory and retreat before the opposition even realized what had happened. "Speed is our greatest weapon," he would often say, and he proved it time and again. His tactics not only won battles, but also shattered the morale of his enemies, leaving them disoriented and defeated. The human side of a warrior. Amidst the grandeur of his military conquests, Rao doesn't forget to portray the human side of Bajirao. In this chapter, we see glimpses of his deep sense of responsibility, not just as a leader but as a protector of his people. Every decision Bajirao made, every battle he fought, was driven by his unwavering commitment to the Maratha cause. But the burden of leadership was not without its challenges. Can you imagine the sleepless nights spent planning campaigns, the weight of countless lives resting on his shoulders? Bajirao carried this burden with grace, yet the novel hints at the loneliness that often accompanied his greatness. A legend in the making. The chapter ends with Bajirao standing victorious after yet another campaign, his sword raised high, his troops chanting his name. But even in victory, his eyes are set on the horizon, always looking ahead to the next challenge, the next conquest. Bajirao was not content with mere victories, he sought to create a legacy, a Maratha Empire that would stand tall for generations to come. Conclusion. The second chapter of Rao is a testament to Bajirao's genius as a military leader and visionary. It captures the essence of his early campaigns, painting a vivid picture of a young man who dared to dream big and had the courage to turn those dreams into reality. Chapter 3: The Meeting of Bajirao and Mastani, a love that defied all boundaries. Nagnath S. Inamdar's Raw reaches an unforgettable emotional peak in the chapter dedicated to the first meeting of Bajirao and Mastani. It's not just the beginning of a passionate love story, it's the convergence of destiny, fate, and the powerful forces of love and loyalty. Through a mix of historical grandeur and the raw intensity of emotions, Inamdar paints a vivid picture of one of the most tumultuous and captivating relationships in Indian history, Bajirao, the powerful and strategic Peshwa, and Mastani, the beautiful and courageous daughter of a Bundela Rajput king. Their union would become a symbol of defiance, love, and the clash of cultures. The context: the world before Bajirao and Mastani. Before we witness the fateful meeting of these two extraordinary individuals, it's important to understand the context in which their paths would cross. The Maratha Empire was at the height of its power, and Bajirao Ballal had already proven himself to be a military genius. As Peshwa of the Maratha Empire, Bajirao's life was deeply entangled with matters of state, warfare, and the expansion of the empire. His leadership, military strategies, and vision had brought him renown and respect not only within his empire but also among enemies. On the other side, Mastani was the daughter of Maharaja Chhatrasal of Bundelkhand, a powerful Rajput king who had struggled against Mughal invasions. Her mother, a Muslim woman, gave her a unique cultural identity, a blend of Hindu and Muslim heritage. Mastani's life was shaped by the royal bloodline of her father and the tumultuous period of her upbringing. While she was trained in the martial arts and culture of the Rajputs, she was also well versed in poetry, music, and dance. The stage was set. Bajirao's greatness and Mastani's beauty, bravery, and uniqueness were destined to meet, creating an intersection of two worlds that would change history forever. The first encounter, destiny intertwines. The moment of their first meeting is nothing short of magical. It is one of those rare, life-altering encounters that seem preordained by fate itself. Bajirao, a young and handsome warrior at the peak of his power, encounters Mastani, a beautiful, self-assured woman who seems to embody both grace and strength in equal measure. It happens in the aftermath of a battle where Bajirao's forces are victorious and Maharaja Chhatrasal seeks to express his gratitude. Chhatrasal offers his daughter Mastani to Bajirao as a gesture of thanks for his support and military assistance. However, the circumstances of this meeting are shrouded in mystery and controversy. Mastani, with her unparalleled beauty and royal lineage, steps forward to meet Bajirao. The moment she lays eyes on him, there is an instant recognition, as if both are aware that their destinies are now bound together. There is a strange chemistry between them, an unspoken connection that transcends the boundaries of their cultural and political affiliations. This is no ordinary meeting, it is the start of something much larger than either of them could have anticipated. Bajirao, the stoic and reserved warrior, is taken aback by Mastani's presence. She is not the typical woman of his time, she carries herself with a regal air that commands attention, and her gaze is filled with a fire and passion that mirrors his own. He is struck by her beauty, but more than that, it is her spirit, her strength, and her confidence that begin to stir something deep within him. His heart, so accustomed to the strategies of war, is now beginning to feel the winds of change. The emotional storm, love at first sight. The emotions that swirl in the air between Bajirao and Mastani are powerful, almost tangible. It's as if the world around them fades into the background, and for a brief moment, it's just the two of them locked in a magnetic, almost inevitable gaze. Imagine the intensity of this moment. Bajirao, who has commanded thousands of soldiers and crushed countless enemies, now stands before a woman who is as fearless and proud as he is. But Mastani is no passive participant in this encounter. She is fully aware of the weight of the moment, and despite her beauty and grace, she carries the burden of being a Rajput princess and a woman who has long been accustomed to wielding power in her own right. Mastani's heart beats with the promise of something more, something that transcends the mundane concerns of politics and duty. She is drawn to Bajirao's strength, his unwavering commitment to the Maratha cause, and the spark of kindness that she perceives in him. There is a depth in his eyes that speaks to her, a yearning for something beyond mere conquest and strategy. But Bajirao, ever the strategist, knows the complications this union will bring. Mastani is not from his world. She is a Rajput princess, a woman with a different cultural and religious background. To love her would mean defying societal norms, family expectations, and even the very essence of what it means to be a Maratha Peshwa. Yet, in his heart, he cannot ignore the feelings that are stirring within him. His mind may struggle with the reality of their relationship, but his heart seems to know that this is the beginning of something that will change everything. The conflict, loyalty, duty, and love. But love, as we all know, is never simple, and Bajirao and Mastani's love is anything but conventional. The very essence of their love is fraught with conflict, internal and external. Bajirao, despite his growing affection for Mastani, is a man bound by duty. As the Peshwa of the Maratha Empire, his first loyalty is to the empire, and every decision he makes is rooted in what is best for the Maratha cause. Can he truly give his heart to Mastani? Can he afford to love her when it might jeopardize his reputation, his power, and his mission? On the other side, Mastani too finds herself torn between love and duty. She is the daughter of a Rajput king, and her loyalty to her father and his kingdom runs deep. She knows that Bajirao is not just a man, he is the Peshwa of the Maratha Empire, a man whose political power could change the very course of history. But despite these overwhelming forces pulling her in different directions, Mastani cannot ignore her growing love for Bajirao. She sees in him a man who understands her struggles, who respects her as a woman of strength, and who sees beyond the barriers of religion, caste, and status. It is this mutual respect and admiration that fuels their love, even when the world around them is filled with opposition and resistance. The repercussions, the world reacts. As Bajirao and Mastani's love story deepens, the repercussions of their union begin to unfold. The conservative elements within the Maratha Empire, including Bajirao's family, his mother, and his wife, Kashibai, are horrified by the idea of Bajirao marrying Mastani. They see her as an outsider, someone who doesn't belong in the Maratha fold. The tension and conflicts that arise from this relationship threaten to tear Bajirao's world apart. Bajirao is forced to navigate the delicate balance between his duty to his family, his loyalty to his wife, and his growing passion for Mastani. The world around Bajirao and Mastani is unforgiving. The societal and familial pressures they face make their love seem impossible. Yet, in the face of adversity, Bajirao and Mastani's bond only grows stronger. They become symbols of resistance against the constraints of tradition, and their love becomes an act of defiance against caste, against religion, and against the very expectations of society. The legacy, a love that transcends time. The love between Bajirao and Mastani is not just a fleeting romance, it becomes a legend. Their relationship, despite all the challenges and conflicts, continues to resonate through the corridors of history. Their love story is a symbol of the eternal struggle between duty and desire, tradition and change, loyalty and passion. It's a story that speaks to the heart of every individual who has ever dared to love beyond boundaries, to defy societal norms, and to pursue what is true, even in the face of overwhelming opposition. Inamdar's portrayal of Bajirao and Mastani's first meeting is powerful, evocative, and deeply moving. It's a moment of intense emotional energy that sets the tone for the entire narrative. Theirs is a love that transcends time, defies expectations, and in its own way, redefines the very idea of love, loyalty, and duty. What a love story! What a legacy! Chapter 4: The Evolution of Bajirao and Mastani's Love Story, a tale of passion, defiance, and destiny. Nagnath S. Inamdar's Raw takes us through the tumultuous and emotional journey of Bajirao and Mastani, a love story that transcends the boundaries of caste, religion, and societal norms. This chapter masterfully illustrates the evolution of their love, from the first spark of affection to a blazing fire that reshapes their destinies and the course of history. It is not just a tale of two people falling in love, but a saga of defiance, sacrifice, and the relentless pursuit of a love that knows no bounds. The spark of affection, a fateful meeting. Imagine this: Bajirao Ballal, a young and powerful Peshwa, standing at the height of his glory, leading the Maratha Empire with unmatched brilliance. And then, there is Mastani, a stunning, intelligent, and independent woman, born into the royal family of Bundelkhand, yet with a soul that cannot be bound by the constraints of royalty. She is a woman of mixed heritage, with her mother being Muslim, and yet her heart beats for the Marathas. The very first meeting between these two destined souls is electrifying. Can you feel the charge in the air? Bajirao, a leader of men and a fierce warrior, meets Mastani, a woman whose beauty, intelligence, and spirit captivate him immediately. There is no denying the instant connection between them. At first, it is a simple admiration, a shared glance that speaks volumes. But as they converse, their bond deepens. Bajirao is drawn to Mastani's fierce independence, her intellect, and her unique perspective on life and the world around her. Mastani, in turn, finds herself captivated by Bajirao's charisma, his sense of duty, and his unmatched bravery. It's a meeting of two souls destined for each other, despite the world that seeks to pull them apart. The growing affection, love in the shadows. From this initial meeting, their love story takes shape in the shadows. Bajirao, despite his growing feelings for Mastani, knows that this love is fraught with challenges. He is a married man, with a deep loyalty to his wife, Kashibai. The Maratha society, steeped in tradition and rigid customs, will never accept his relationship with Mastani. Yet, the heart wants what it wants, doesn't it? Bajirao cannot ignore the pull of Mastani's love, and Mastani cannot deny the affection she feels for him. Their love begins to flourish in secret, an unspoken connection that grows with each passing day. Imagine the thrill of a forbidden love that is shared only through stolen moments. The quiet glances, the fleeting touches, the conversations in the dead of night, it's a love that blooms in silence, away from the prying eyes of society. Bajirao, who is used to commanding armies and ruling lands, finds himself helpless in the face of this all-consuming love. Mastani, who is accustomed to the luxury of royalty, finds herself torn between her loyalty to her father, Raja Chhatrasal, and her growing love for the Peshwa. Their love evolves, but it does not come without its cost. The weight of their feelings begins to show on both of them. Bajirao's sense of duty as Peshwa constantly conflicts with his emotions, while Mastani's family and her royal duties clash with her desire to be with Bajirao. Yet, despite all these obstacles, their bond grows stronger, becoming impossible to ignore. The conflict, love in the face of adversity. The evolution of Bajirao and Mastani's love story is not a smooth journey. It is filled with moments of tension, inner turmoil, and external pressure. Bajirao's position as Peshwa demands loyalty to his duty above all else, but how can he ignore the woman who has captured his heart? The political and familial pressures mount. Bajirao's family, particularly his mother, Kashibai, and his brother, Chimaji Appa, are not just skeptical of Mastani but outright oppose her. Kashibai's disapproval of Mastani is palpable, and her anger is justified. She is the first wife of Bajirao, and the thought of him taking a second wife, especially one who is not of the same faith or caste, deeply disturbs her. The growing tension within Bajirao's household becomes a defining aspect of their love story. Despite the challenges, Bajirao and Mastani continue to meet secretly, and their love grows with every encounter. The conflict between duty and love intensifies. Can love survive in such a hostile environment? Bajirao, ever the warrior, fights against not just external enemies but the very structure of his own family's expectations. His love for Mastani defies the very fabric of society, and yet, this is the love that gives him strength in the face of adversity. Mastani, on the other hand, fights her own battles. She has to deal with the skepticism and disdain from the royal family, the rumors that surround her, and the weight of living in a world that refuses to accept her love for Bajirao. Yet, her resilience shines through, and she refuses to back down from her feelings. The sacrifice, a love that defies all odds. What is the price of love? For Bajirao and Mastani, it is everything. Their love becomes an act of defiance, defying societal norms, family expectations, and even their own internal conflicts. Bajirao, in order to be with Mastani, makes the ultimate sacrifice. He defies his family's wishes and marries Mastani. This is a bold decision, one that will change the course of his life forever. But for Bajirao, love is worth the sacrifice. He has already proved his courage in battle, and now, he must prove it in his personal life, choosing to follow his heart rather than his duty. Mastani, too, sacrifices everything for Bajirao. She leaves behind her royal life, her title, and everything she knew to be with the man she loves. Her life becomes one of exile, far from her family, far from her kingdom, and far from the life she once knew. She is ostracized by the world she came from. And her love for Bajirao becomes her only anchor. Her sacrifice is as great as Bajirao's, for she is not just giving up her royal life, but her entire identity, her future, and her past, all for love. The final test, love that endures. As Bajirao and Mastani's relationship progresses, their love faces its final and most testing trial. The question remains, can love truly endure all challenges? Bajirao's empire, his duties, and his relentless drive for expansion continue to demand his attention. Mastani, though she has earned a place in his heart, must live with the harsh reality of being a woman who is not fully accepted by society or his family. But through it all, their love continues to burn brightly, even when everything else seems to be crumbling around them. In the face of war, politics, and familial strife, Bajirao and Mastani's love stands as a testament to the power of human connection. It is not just a love story between two people, but a symbol of resilience, passion, and defiance. The love they share is pure, powerful, and unyielding, a love that, despite all odds, endures. Conclusion: a love that transcends time and space. The evolution of Bajirao and Mastani's love story is a journey of transformation, sacrifice, and perseverance. It begins as a spark of affection, grows into a passionate affair, faces countless obstacles, and ultimately becomes a love that transcends time and space. This love story is not just about Bajirao and Mastani. It is a symbol of all forbidden loves, of the courage it takes to follow one's heart in the face of societal pressures, and the sacrifices that love often demands. Nagnath S. Inamdar has brilliantly woven together the evolution of this extraordinary love story, capturing the essence of Bajirao and Mastani's journey. Their love story is not just a chapter in a book. It is an epic saga that continues to inspire and captivate readers around the world. It is a love that knows no boundaries, no limitations, and no restrictions, a love that is destined to endure through the ages. What a tale! What a love story! A love that defied all odds, and yet, it survived the test of time. Chapter 5: Resistance from Society and the Peshwa Family in Raw by Nagnath S. Inamdar. Raw Nagnath S. Inamdar's monumental work is not merely a historical narrative but an emotional journey, a saga of ambition, rebellion, and the complexities of human relationships. In the 5th chapter of Raw, the tension intensifies as Bajirao's and Mastani's love faces harsh resistance, not only from the larger society but from within the very heart of the Maratha Peshwa family. This chapter delves into the intricate web of politics, tradition, and personal desires that collided head-on with the unconventional love story of the two protagonists. Inamdar brilliantly captures the upheaval in Bajirao's life, forced by his responsibilities as a ruler, his personal loyalties, and his deep affection for Mastani. Bajirao and Mastani, a love born of rebellion. At the core of this chapter is the love story between Bajirao, the Peshwa of the Maratha Empire, and Mastani, the beautiful yet controversial daughter of the Bundelkhand ruler Chhatrasal. Their relationship, initially blossoming in secrecy, gradually becomes the talk of the Maratha Empire. But love, as they say, is never just about two people, it affects the world around them, and in this case, it challenges the very foundations of the society Bajirao and Mastani are a part of. Bajirao, the mighty warrior and political leader, finds himself caught in an emotional battle between his duty to his people and his heart's longing for Mastani. Mastani, despite being a woman of royal blood, belongs to a different culture, and her relationship with Bajirao shatters the rigid caste and societal barriers that have always governed the Maratha community. Her mixed heritage, a Muslim mother and a Rajput father, makes her a figure of controversy, a point of contention that people refuse to overlook. The family's strong disapproval, a world of tradition and honor. As their love grows, Bajirao's commitment to Mastani begins to clash with the expectations of his family, especially his mother, Radhabai, and his elder brother, Chimaji Appa. The Peshwa family, guardians of Maratha traditions, cannot accept that their leader, someone who represents the unity and strength of the Maratha Empire, would tie his fate to a woman considered inappropriate by the community's narrow standards. Radhabai, Bajirao's mother, holds the traditional views of an older generation. She is a symbol of the conservative Maratha aristocracy, bound by customs that dictate who is worthy of association and who is not. For her, Bajirao's relationship with Mastani is nothing short of a betrayal. A woman of mixed heritage, who does not belong to the Maratha fold, is seen as an outsider, someone who might bring dishonor to the Peshwa family. She cannot fathom how her son, whom she has raised with such dedication, could choose to stand with Mastani over his own family. Chimaji Appa, Bajirav's elder brother, also voices his displeasure, primarily because of the political ramifications. The relationship with Mastani not only jeopardizes Bajirav's reputation but also causes rifts within the political structure of the Maratha Empire. Chimaji, ever the pragmatic strategist, worries that Bajirav's infatuation with Mastani might affect his focus on the empire's affairs. The very nature of Bajirav's leadership is questioned. How can someone so immersed in personal emotions lead an empire that demands stoic and relentless leadership? This familial resistance becomes more pronounced when Bajirav, in his unwavering love for Mastani, begins to defy the wishes of his mother and brother. He decides to bring Mastani to Pune, where she would reside with him in the Peshwa palace, openly acknowledging their relationship. This act is not just a declaration of love, it is a challenge to the established norms of the Maratha aristocracy, an act of defiance that leaves the family reeling with shock and outrage. Society's outrage, challenging the norms of caste and culture. As if the disapproval from Bajirav's family were not enough, the larger Maratha society, steeped in age-old traditions and values, takes an even harsher stance. The love affair between Bajirav and Mastani sends shockwaves through the empire. The Maratha people, known for their fierce independence and pride, do not tolerate such a breach in societal norms. In a society that holds caste, tradition, and honor above all else, Bajirav's relationship with Mastani is seen as a betrayal of everything that the Maratha Empire stands for. The Peshwa, a symbol of Maratha authority, is expected to marry within the strict confines of caste, community, and political alliances. Bajirav's decision to be with Mastani, who hails from a mixed heritage, is seen as an affront to these traditions. The society, deeply entrenched in its prejudices, cannot fathom why Bajirav would choose to defy these deeply rooted conventions. The very essence of his identity as a leader and as a man of honor is being questioned. Mastani becomes a symbol of division, not only in Bajirav's life but in the fabric of Maratha society. The people of Pune, where Bajirav rules, voice their dissent openly. There are whispers in the streets, rumors about the Peshwa's choices, and criticisms from every corner. Public gatherings discuss Bajirav's controversial decision, and there are even calls for his abdication. How could a leader of his stature, and one who commands so much respect, compromise his integrity and the integrity of the empire for the sake of a woman? The moralistic condemnation extends beyond the walls of the Peshwa palace. The kingdom's warriors, who once revered Bajirav for his valiant leadership, begin to question his judgment. The Maratha Empire, which Bajirav has so meticulously built, begins to fracture under the weight of societal outrage. Bajirav's most loyal generals, who had once followed him into battle with unwavering trust, now begin to doubt his decisions. The Peshwa, once an embodiment of strength and courage, is now seen as a man led astray by his emotions and desires. The battle within, Bajirav's struggle for identity and duty. Amidst the fury of his family and society, Bajirav finds himself locked in a battle within himself. He is torn between his responsibilities as the Peshwa, charged with safeguarding the Maratha Empire and maintaining its unity, and his love for Mastani, which he cannot deny. This inner conflict, his duty versus his desire, is one of the most poignant aspects of the chapter. Bajirav is not merely struggling to defend his love, he is struggling to defend his own identity as a leader. The weight of the world presses down on him. He knows that his actions are stirring unrest within his family, his people, and his kingdom. He is the leader of a vast empire, yet in his heart, he longs for Mastani, a woman who represents everything the society he leads despises. But what does it mean to be a leader if one cannot follow one's heart? Is duty more important than love? Or is love, in its purest form, a duty in itself? Bajirao's struggle is not just a political one, it is deeply personal. His leadership is questioned, his authority undermined, and his relationship with his family is strained. He is no longer just the Peshwa, he is a man fighting for his love, a man who refuses to let society or his family dictate the course of his life. And in this battle, Bajirao proves that true strength lies not in power or domination but in the courage to follow one's heart, even when the world stands against it. Conclusion: a love that transcends boundaries. The fifth chapter of Raw paints a powerful and emotional picture of Bajirao's resistance to the societal and familial pressures that seek to tear him apart from Mastani. The love story between Bajirao and Mastani becomes a symbol of rebellion against the rigidity of caste, tradition, and social hierarchy. It is a love that refuses to be confined by any boundaries, a love that challenges the very fabric of society. Inamdar's portrayal of Bajirao's struggle, the battle between duty and desire, tradition and change, is deeply compelling and resonates with the reader's emotions. Bajirao is not just a warrior, he is a human being caught in a web of conflicting loyalties, obligations, and passions. And Mastani, the woman he loves, represents both the greatest joy and the deepest sorrow in his life. This chapter encapsulates the essence of Raw. It is a story of love, sacrifice, defiance, and, above all, the courage to stand up for what one believes in, no matter the cost. It is a reminder that true love is not without its challenges, and sometimes, the greatest battles are fought not on the battlefield, but in the heart. Chapter 6: Mastani's Struggles in Pune and Her Life in Shanivarwada, Raw by Nagnath S. Inamdar. In Nagnath S. Inamdar's Raw, the story unfolds in the majestic backdrop of 18th century India, focusing on the Peshwa era. The novel intricately explores the emotional, political, and social struggles of the time. One of the most poignant aspects of this narrative is Mastani's life after she arrives in Pune, particularly her life in the Shanivarwada. This chapter serves as a turning point in Mastani's journey, depicting her suffering, isolation, and the heavy price she pays for the love she shares with Bajirao. Let us dive deep into the struggles she faces and the challenges of her life within the walls of Shanivarwada, where love and duty clash against societal expectations. Mastani's arrival in Pune, a new beginning or a tragic fate? Mastani's arrival in Pune marks a monumental moment in Raw. After much resistance from both the Peshwa family and society, Bajirao finally brings Mastani to Pune, a city that represents power, politics, and tradition. However, what is supposed to be a new chapter for Mastani quickly turns into a tragic saga of loneliness, rejection, and social ostracization. Pune, the heart of the Maratha Empire, is a place where tradition and customs reign supreme. For Mastani, a woman of royal blood, her entry into this powerful city is filled with both anticipation and dread. She is not just a foreign princess from Bundelkhand, but someone who dares to challenge the norms of the Maratha Empire, especially by having a relationship with the Peshwa, a man of great power and stature. However, what awaited her in Pune was not acceptance but coldness and contempt. Mastani, despite being loved by Bajirao, finds herself surrounded by an ocean of hostility. Shanivarwada, a fortress of isolation. Once she arrives in Pune, Mastani is given a place within the Shanivarwada, the magnificent fort that stands as a symbol of the Peshwa's power and grandeur. The fort, which once echoed with the voices of rulers and warriors, now echoes the silence of Mastani's heartbreak and solitude. Shanivarwada, with its towering walls, becomes a prison of her own emotions. Mastani's life within the walls of this fortress is marked by profound isolation. While Bajirao's love for her is unwavering, the society around them, including the Peshwa family, condemns their relationship. This creates a constant source of conflict for Mastani. In the lavish and imposing Shanivarwada, where every corner symbolizes grandeur and wealth, she feels like a stranger in her own home. Her isolation is not just physical but also emotional. The Grand Palace becomes a place of imprisonment for Mastani as she is cut off from the outside world, trapped within the walls of her own identity crisis. In Shanivarwada, Mastani is continuously reminded of the societal rejection she faces. The servants, courtiers, and even the family of Bajirao avoid her. Their whispers and glances tell a story of disdain and judgment. They look at her as an outsider, a foreigner who has no place in their royal family and certainly no right to claim the love of their Peshwa. Mastani, who once lived with pride and dignity in her own kingdom, now faces the harsh reality of being the object of contempt in Pune, a place that should have been her new home. Mastani's inner struggles, the battle of identity. Mastani's struggles are not merely external, they are deeply internal as well. Torn between her love for Bajirao and the growing isolation she faces, Mastani is forced to confront her own identity. She is a woman who belongs to two worlds, yet neither world fully accepts her. She is a princess of Bundelkhand, but here in Pune, she is treated like an outsider, someone who doesn't belong to the Maratha culture and traditions. Her mixed heritage, being the daughter of a Muslim mother and a Rajput father, becomes the root of her alienation in the eyes of society. In her quiet moments, Mastani often questions her own existence. She questions whether her love for Bajirao is worth the suffering she endures or if it was a mistake to ever come to Pune. Yet, her love for him remains constant and unshaken, even in the face of overwhelming adversity. But the emotional turmoil she faces is crushing, and there is no one who can truly understand her pain. No one except Bajirao, but even he is caught in a web of duty and obligation to his family, making him unable to provide Mastani with the emotional support she desperately needs. The growing conflict, Bajirao's duty versus Mastani's love. As Bajirao continues to lead his people and fulfill his royal duties, Mastani becomes an unspoken burden for him. Although he loves her, Bajirao is deeply torn between his role as a ruler and his personal desires. The constant conflict between his duty as a Peshwa and his love for Mastani becomes more pronounced. Bajirao's family, especially his mother Radhabai and brother Chimaji Appa, view Mastani as an encumbrance on the Peshwa's position, not only as a ruler but also as a son and a brother. Mastani's presence in Shanivarwada serves as a constant reminder of the imbalance between Bajirao's personal life and his royal duties. Despite this tension, Bajirao's love for Mastani does not waver, but it is clear that Mastani suffers from the lack of affection and emotional connection that she craves from him. Bajirao, though devoted to her, is often preoccupied with the responsibilities of his empire, and this leaves Mastani feeling more neglected than ever. While Bajirao's absence causes her immense pain, Mastani clings to the hope that one day she will be able to break free from this emotional cage. The political ramifications, a woman in a man's world. In the male-dominated world of politics and power, Mastani faces the harsh realities of being a woman in a patriarchal society. Her position within Shanivarwada is one of marginalization, not only due to her gender but also because of her identity. Despite her royal status and her position as the beloved of the Peshwa, she is viewed as an outsider by the men of the court and the Maratha elite. Mastani, who once ruled over her own kingdom, is now powerless in the political game of Pune. Her very existence challenges the traditional norms of the Maratha society. A woman of royal lineage, but of mixed heritage, is a constant source of discomfort for the men who uphold the sanctity of their customs and traditions. Mastani's mere presence in Shanivarwada disrupts the established order, and she becomes a symbol of rebellion against the rigid caste system, the established norms of marriage, and the social order that dictates who belongs and who does not. The loneliness of Mastani, a heartbreaking solitude. The most heartbreaking aspect of Mastani's life in Shanivarwada is the deep loneliness that permeates her existence. She is surrounded by opulence and grandeur, but there is no warmth, no companionship, and no solace in the palace. She longs for Bajirao's presence, for his touch, and for the love he once promised her. But as the days pass, she finds herself more and more alone, trapped in a palace that should have been her sanctuary. The loneliness she feels is not just emotional, it is also social. She is rejected by the people of Pune, who view her as an unwelcome guest. She is isolated from the royal court and has no one with whom she can share her thoughts or feelings. Her life in Shanivarwada, though filled with wealth, is bereft of happiness. It is this loneliness that eats away at Mastani, as she longs for the day when Bajirao will finally free her from her prison of despair. Mastani's resilience, the strength of a woman. Despite all the hardships, Mastani's strength remains unbroken. She continues to fight for her love, her dignity, and her place in the world. She may be isolated, but her resolve to live her life on her own terms is unyielding. She faces rejection from all sides, but she never allows it to define her. She holds on to her love for Bajirao, even as it becomes a source of pain and heartache. Mastani's journey in Shanivarwada is a testament to the resilience of a woman who, despite being trapped in an oppressive world, continues to fight for what she believes in. Conclusion: a tragic heroine in the shadow of power. In this chapter of Raw, Mastani's life in Pune and her struggles in Shanivarwada reflect the emotional toll of living in a world where love and power collide. Mastani is a woman who dares to love beyond the boundaries set by society, but in doing so, she faces the wrath of that very society. She is caught in a web of political intrigue, family expectations, and her own identity struggles. The Shanivarwada, once a symbol of power and strength, becomes a symbol of her emotional prison, a place where love, isolation, and duty intertwine in the most painful of ways. Mastani's story is one of strength, love, and loss, a reminder of the sacrifices that come with defying tradition and following one's heart. Through her struggles, Inamdar captures the complexities of human emotion and the cost of love in a world that refuses to accept it. Chapter 7: Bajirao's internal conflict between love, duty, and societal expectations. In Nagnath S. Inamdar's celebrated historical novel Raw, one of the most poignant chapters delves into the internal turmoil of Bajirao Peshwa, the celebrated military genius and statesman. This chapter paints an extraordinary portrait of a man torn between his love for Mastani, his duty as the Peshwa of the Maratha Empire, and the heavy expectations placed upon him by society, family, and his people. The depth of this conflict and the emotional and moral challenges Bajirao faces reveals the complexity of his character and the weight of his responsibilities. The burden of leadership. Bajirao, the Peshwa, is no ordinary man. He is a visionary, a leader of great military and political acumen. The entire Maratha Empire rests on his shoulders. And yet, despite his towering achievements, his life is not without profound personal sacrifices. Inamdar's portrayal of Bajirao shows the man as both a warrior and a statesman, caught between the demands of his personal desires and the larger aspirations of his people. Bajirao is a young man barely in his 20s, but he carries the weight of the empire. Every decision he makes ripples across the vast expanse of the Maratha kingdom. The future of the empire, its stability, and its expansion depend on his military strategies, his governance, and his alliances. It is this sense of responsibility that dominates his every waking moment. But within him lies a storm, his love for Mastani, a woman who is as much a part of his destiny as the empire he serves. The heart of a warrior and a lover. In the world of war and diplomacy, Bajirao is unparalleled in his brilliance. He is the man who led the Marathas to victories, who brought glory to the empire, and whose strategic mind struck fear into the hearts of their enemies. But behind the warrior's mask, he is also a man capable of deep, passionate love. His love for Mastani, a woman of noble birth yet cast out by society for her connection with him, burns in his heart like an unquenchable fire. Mastani's beauty and spirit captivate Bajirao from the moment they meet. Their love, pure and intense, transcends all boundaries, social, familial, and political. But their love is not without its trials. Bajirao is forced to confront the harsh realities of the society in which he lives, where his every action is scrutinized and his every relationship becomes a matter of public discourse. Mastani, though revered by Bajirao, is viewed with disdain by the Maratha society, and this creates an insurmountable barrier between them. Bajirao's love for Mastani is pure, but the very essence of this love brings with it an emotional weight that he cannot ignore. As much as his heart longs to embrace Mastani openly, his position as the Peshwa demands that he uphold the laws and traditions that govern his society. His internal conflict grows stronger with every passing day as he navigates the delicate balance between his duty to the Maratha Empire and his love for a woman who is not accepted by the very people he is sworn to serve. Duty, honor, and expectations, the weight of tradition. The chapter explores how Bajirao, despite his love for Mastani, cannot escape the expectations placed upon him by society and his family. In the rigid social structure of 18th century Maharashtra, the Peshwa was expected to adhere to strict codes of conduct. His actions were to be in line with the customs of the time, and his family was expected to uphold the honor of the Maratha dynasty. In this context, Bajirao's relationship with Mastani, an outsider, an unusual match, becomes an issue of public concern. Bajirao's family, especially his mother, Radhabai, is adamantly opposed to his relationship with Mastani. They view her as a distraction, a threat to the Peshwa's honor, and a stain on the family's name. They press Bajirao to marry within the confines of their social circle, to strengthen the political alliances of the Maratha Empire through marriage, and to maintain the purity of the Peshwa lineage. His family's pressure on him to choose duty over love intensifies the internal conflict he faces. Furthermore, the society Bajirao governs and loves is equally unforgiving. The nobility, the warriors, and the general populace look to him for guidance, and his actions serve as an example for them. But when he chooses Mastani, a woman whose heritage and status are questioned, he faces not only opposition from his family but also the harsh judgment of society. The honor of the Peshwa family is at stake, and Bajirao is torn between fulfilling his familial duties and following his heart. The struggles of a man of honor. What makes Bajirao such a compelling character is his sense of honor, duty, and selflessness. He is not only the Peshwa of the Maratha Empire, but also a man who understands the importance of sacrifice. Every decision he makes is a delicate balance between his personal desires and the expectations placed upon him by the empire, his family, and the people he serves. Bajirao's internal conflict becomes even more pronounced as he navigates the political landscape. His relationship with Mastani is not just a matter of love, it is also a matter of statecraft. The very survival of the Maratha Empire depends on his ability to balance diplomacy, alliances, and the delicate intricacies of power. Bajirao knows that any wrong move could destabilize the empire, alienate his allies, and weaken the Maratha cause. Yet, his heart constantly yearns for Mastani. As a statesman, Bajirao cannot afford to be seen as weak or indecisive. His actions must be guided by logic, reason, and the greater good of the Maratha Empire. But his heart tells him something entirely different. His love for Mastani fills him with a longing that defies all reason. The tension between these two forces, duty and love, is what defines the essence of Bajirao's character in this chapter. Love as a sacrifice. Inamdar masterfully presents Bajirao's love as not only a beautiful, transformative force but also one that requires immense sacrifice. Bajirao's love for Mastani is not a mere romantic fling, it is a love that requires him to make difficult choices, to stand against the tide of public opinion, and to suffer the consequences of his actions. But Bajirao is a man who understands sacrifice. He sacrifices his peace, his relationship with his family, and even his position as a ruler for the love he feels for Mastani. Yet, he also understands that his first duty is to the Maratha Empire. This duality, his love for Mastani and his devotion to the empire, pushes Bajirao to the brink of his emotional and mental endurance. The sacrifices he makes for Mastani are not merely emotional but also political. His choices complicate his relationships with his allies, and his position as the Peshwa becomes even more precarious. Every step he takes towards Mastani seems to push him further from his obligations, and yet, he remains steadfast in his love. His internal struggle is not just about choosing between love and duty, it is about finding a way to reconcile these two competing forces and to preserve the empire he holds dear. The heart of the matter, a man caught between two worlds. In the end, Bajirao's internal conflict reflects the very essence of his character. He is a man caught between two worlds, the world of duty and governance and the world of love and passion. Each world demands a different part of him, and each world shapes his destiny in ways that are beyond his control. Inamdar presents Bajirao's internal turmoil with such emotional depth that readers cannot help but feel the weight of his decisions. His struggle is universal, the tension between duty and personal desires, the sacrifice of self for the greater good, and the eternal conflict between heart and mind. Bajirao's dilemma speaks to the very core of human existence, the desire to love freely and the necessity to serve one's duty. This chapter captures the soul of Ra, the internal struggle of a leader who must sacrifice his personal happiness for the sake of his people. Bajirao's journey is one of love, duty, sacrifice, and honor, and Inamdar brings it to life in such a powerful and poignant way that readers are left deeply moved by the choices and challenges that define this extraordinary man. Conclusion: a man, a legend, a heart torn apart. Bajirao's internal conflict is not just a personal struggle, it is a microcosm of the larger battle between duty and love that plays out in the lives of many great leaders. Inamdar's Raw masterfully explores the complexities of Bajirao's character, giving readers a profound look into the heart of one of India's greatest historical figures. The internal conflict between love, duty, and societal expectations that Bajirao experiences in this chapter is what makes his story so compelling, so tragic, and so inspiring. The emotional weight of his decisions, the sacrifices he makes for the greater good, and the love he carries for Mastani are what truly define him as a man, a leader, and a lover. In this chapter, we are not just reading about a historical figure, we are witnessing the soul of a man caught in a timeless struggle between the heart and the mind, between duty and love. It is a battle that will resonate with anyone who has ever faced the difficult choice between following their heart and fulfilling their responsibilities. Inamdar's portrayal of Bajirao's internal conflict is a masterpiece that brings the complexities of leadership and love into sharp focus, making Raw timeless work of literature that continues to captivate readers around the world. Chapter 8: The Political Decline and Challenges Faced by the Peshwa Rule in Raw by Nagnath S. Inamdar. In Nagnath S. Inamdar's Raw, a rich and vivid portrayal of the 18th century Maratha Empire, the focus shifts to a critical period in the history of the Peshwa rule marked by political decline, growing internal and external challenges, and the unraveling of the once unshakable authority of the Peshwas. This chapter presents the challenges faced by the Maratha Empire under the leadership of the Peshwas, delving deep into the socio-political dynamics, internal conflicts, and the decay that set in during the later years of their reign. The rise of the Peshwa and the early triumphs. Before understanding the political decline, it is essential to grasp the heights the Peshwa administration once reached. Under Bajirao I, the Maratha Empire had expanded significantly, consolidating its position as a dominant power in India. The Peshwas had successfully built a system of governance that combined political wisdom, military prowess, and diplomatic tact. Bajirao's leadership, along with his military strategies, had expanded the Maratha territories across India. Under his guidance, the Marathas won critical battles, leading to the creation of an empire that spanned large parts of northern, central, and western India. The Peshwa's rule, at its peak, was seen as an embodiment of strength, unity, and vision. However, the Maratha Empire was not to remain unchallenged. The very foundation of its political structure began to show cracks after Bajirao's death. The Peshwa rule became vulnerable to both external forces and internal dissent. The shifting political landscape, a new generation of leaders. Bajirao's son, Balaji Bajirao, known as Nana Sahib, inherited the Peshwa position after Bajirao's death. But his reign was marked by the seeds of instability. Nana Sahib lacked the military brilliance of his father and struggled to maintain control over the vast territories that Bajirao had secured. Though he was a capable administrator, Nana Sahib's inability to carry the same charisma and strategic foresight as Bajirao left the Peshwa rule open to both internal and external threats. As the political scene continued to evolve, the Maratha Empire's leaders faced internal turmoil that weakened the centralized power of the Peshwas. In the absence of a unified vision like that of Bajirao, the Marathas found themselves divided. Various factions, including powerful ministers, military commanders, and rival clans, began to challenge the Peshwa's authority. The struggles of leadership, The decline of the Peshwa's rule can be attributed to the lack of strong leadership in the post-Bajirao era. Bajirao's legacy of swift, aggressive military campaigns and a visionary expansionist policy had made the Marathas one of the most formidable forces in the region. But after his death, the empire was left in a state of fragility. Nana Sahib and later his son, Bajirao too, were unable to replicate their predecessors' successes. The Peshwas, who once commanded the respect of rulers across India, were slowly losing control over their territories. This struggle for power intensified with the rise of the British East India Company. The increasing influence of the British, combined with internal divisions, made the Peshwa's position precarious. The Marathas, who had once been fierce warriors, were now fighting not only foreign invaders but also their own political fragmentation. The Maratha Confederacy, a house divided. One of the major factors contributing to the political decline of the Peshwa rule was the breakdown of the Maratha Confederacy. Initially formed as a loose alliance between the major Maratha states, the Confederacy had been successful in resisting external threats and consolidating power. However, as time passed, it became increasingly difficult for the Peshwas to maintain control over the various factions within the Confederacy. Key figures such as the Holkars of Indore, the Scindias of Gwalior, and the Bhonsles of Nagpur began asserting their independence. These rival factions, often with conflicting interests, undermined the Peshwa's authority and created divisions within the Maratha leadership. Instead of working as a cohesive unit, the Marathas started fighting amongst themselves, weakening the unity and strength that had once made them formidable opponents of the Mughal Empire and other regional powers. The internal political struggles, the role of the court and the Brahmins. Another key factor in the decline of the Peshwa rule was the growing influence of the Brahman faction in the court. The Peshwa position itself had evolved into a seat that was controlled largely by the Brahmins, with many powerful ministers from this community dominating the decision-making process. As a result, the ruling elite often faced pressure from various sections of society, including military commanders and other influential figures, who felt sidelined by the Brahman-led administration. This led to further discontent and internal divisions, as military leaders such as the Scindias, Holkars, and Bhonsles began to resent the Brahman-dominated Peshwa administration. The weakening of the centralized authority, combined with the growing influence of competing factions, meant that the Peshwa's ability to effectively govern became increasingly compromised. The Anglo-Maratha Wars, the final blow. The final blow to the Peshwa's rule came with the Anglo-Maratha Wars. The British East India Company had been growing in power, establishing their dominance across India. The Marathas, though a formidable military force, found themselves embroiled in multiple wars against the British that drained their resources and weakened their strategic position. In these wars, the Marathas fought valiantly, but internal divisions and the lack of a unified front made it difficult to defeat the British. In the Third Anglo-Maratha War, 1817 to 1818, the Peshwa, Bajirao II, was decisively defeated by the British. The Marathas were forced to submit to British authority, and Bajirao II was exiled to Bithur. The defeat marked the end of the Peshwa's power and the eventual incorporation of the Maratha territories into the British Empire. The decline of the Peshwa and the fall of the Maratha Empire. With the British victory in the Anglo-Maratha Wars, the political decline of the Peshwa rule was complete. The Maratha Empire, which had once been a strong, unified entity, was now fragmented into smaller, weaker states. The centralized power of the Peshwa was dismantled, and the once mighty Maratha forces were left scattered and powerless. The fall of the Peshwa rule also symbolized the end of an era for the Maratha Empire. It was a powerful reminder of how internal divisions, lack of strong leadership, and external threats could erode the foundations of even the mightiest empires. The Marathas, who had once stood as the primary challengers to Mughal dominance, were now reduced to a shadow of their former selves. Conclusion: the tragic decline of the Peshwa rule. Inamdar's raw poignantly captures the tragic political decline of the Peshwa rule, illustrating how an empire that had once stood at the pinnacle of power was gradually undone by internal strife, weak leadership, and external challenges. The chapter serves as a sobering reflection on the fragility of political power and the complex dynamics of governance. It paints a powerful picture of a once glorious empire, now fragmented, struggling to maintain its hold in a rapidly changing political landscape. This chapter not only highlights the personal struggles and challenges faced by the Peshwa leaders but also sheds light on the larger socio-political forces that shaped the fate of the Maratha Empire. The loss of the Peshwa rule marked the end of an era of Maratha dominance in India, leaving a void that would be filled by the British, who would go on to rule India for the next century. Raw thus encapsulates both the glory and the tragedy of the Maratha Empire, making it an essential work for understanding the political decline of one of India's most powerful empires. Chapter 9: Bajirao's health deteriorates and his tragic end. In Raw by Nagnath S. Inamdar, one of the most poignant chapters focuses on the tragic decline of Bajirao I, the legendary Peshwa of the Maratha Empire. This chapter paints a heart-wrenching portrait of Bajirao's physical and emotional struggles in the face of deteriorating health, as well as the impact of his tragic end on the Maratha Empire, his family, and his devoted followers. Bajirao's health, a shadow of his former glory. Bajirao I, known for his unmatched vigor, indomitable spirit, and military genius, was the epitome of the Maratha warrior. He was a man who had conquered lands and hearts alike, a man whose very presence on the battlefield sent tremors through his enemies. But despite his monumental successes and power, Bajirao was not immune to the harsh realities of time. His body, once a symbol of unyielding strength, began to betray him. The chapter opens with a sense of foreboding, as Bajirao's once boundless energy seems to be slipping away. His health, which had always been robust, starts to decline, and the first signs are subtle. The Peshwa, who had led countless campaigns across India, felt fatigue set in like never before. He had been suffering from an unspecified ailment for some time, but his condition worsened dramatically, leaving him unable to carry out even the simplest of tasks with the same vigor. Bajirao's physical decline is portrayed in such a way that it shakes the very foundation of his character. For a man who was the symbol of resilience, seeing his health deteriorate serves as a bitter contrast to his earlier triumphs. As he struggles with his health, the emotional weight of the situation deepens. The once fierce and energetic Peshwa is reduced to someone who now has to rely on others, unable to wield his sword or lead his men into battle. The enormity of his decline is not just physical, it is an emotional and psychological blow that affects both him and those around him. Bajirao's emotional struggles. The decline in his health takes a heavy toll on Bajirao's mental state. He is no longer the same Peshwa who led from the front, charging into battle with unshakable confidence. His body has become a prison, limiting his freedom and forcing him into an environment of constant care. Bajirao's internal conflict begins to emerge. He is faced with the realization that his time may be running out, and with it, his empire's stability may be threatened. This decline also brings about a deeper reflection on his life and choices. The Peshwa had always been consumed with the idea of building a powerful empire and securing the future of the Marathas. However, as he faces his own mortality, he is left to question whether he had truly done enough. The once unshakable Bajirao is now grappling with feelings of helplessness and vulnerability, and these emotions are depicted in the novel with such intensity that readers can almost feel the weight of his inner turmoil. One of the most moving aspects of this chapter is the emotional isolation Bajirao feels. Despite being surrounded by family and loyal supporters, he realizes that no one can truly understand the depth of his suffering. His condition has left him in a state of helplessness, and the Peshwa, who had once been the embodiment of power and control, finds himself powerless against the forces of nature. The role of Mastani. Amidst Bajirao's physical decline, his relationship with Mastani plays a crucial role in this chapter. Mastani, the woman he loved with a passion that transcended societal norms, becomes his pillar of support in these trying times. She stands by him when everyone else seems to be preoccupied with their own agendas or concerns. In Mastani, Bajirao finds not only a companion but also a source of emotional solace. She remains steadfast in her loyalty, offering him comfort and love when he needs it the most. Mastani's presence in his life serves as a reminder of the intensity of their love and the sacrifices they both made for each other. Their bond is both beautiful and tragic, as it is marred by the harsh realities of their time. The love that flourished in the face of societal resistance now has to confront the inevitability of Bajirao's impending death. The poignancy of their relationship adds another layer of emotional complexity to the chapter. The pain of a hero. As Bajirao's health deteriorates, the chapter delves into the physical and emotional pain he experiences. His once powerful body is now frail and weak, and every breath seems to bring him closer to the end. The descriptions of his suffering are vivid and evocative, illustrating the harshness of his condition. Bajirao, who had once been invincible, is now reduced to a mere shadow of his former self. The emotional weight of this decline is profound, as the once fearless leader now faces the greatest enemy of all, death. His heart, once filled with the fire of ambition and determination, is now heavy with the realization that his time has come. The emotional toll of this realization is felt not only by Bajirao but by those who love and admire him. His followers, who had once been inspired by his courage and leadership, now watch helplessly as their beloved Peshwa slips away. Bajirao's tragic end. The chapter culminates in the tragic death of Bajirao, a moment that is both inevitable and heartbreaking. Despite his heroic efforts and the support of his loved ones, he succumbs to his illness, leaving behind a legacy that is both glorious and tragic. Bajirao's death marks the end of an era in the history of the Maratha Empire, and it signifies the loss of a leader who had shaped the course of Indian history. His death sends shockwaves throughout the Maratha Empire, and the chapter captures the grief and sorrow that follow. The Marathas, who had once been invincible under his leadership, now find themselves without their greatest warrior. The sense of loss is profound, as Bajirao's passing signifies not just the loss of a man, but the loss of an era of greatness and glory. The aftermath. In the aftermath of Bajirao's death, the chapter paints a picture of uncertainty and instability. The Maratha Empire, which had been under his strong leadership, begins to fracture. His death creates a vacuum of power, and the once mighty empire begins to crumble under the weight of internal strife and external threats. The legacy of Bajirao, though revered, cannot stop the impending downfall of the Maratha Empire. The emotional impact of Bajirao's death is felt by all who knew him. His family, his loyal soldiers, and his subjects are left to grapple with the loss of a man who had given everything for his people. Mastani, in particular, is devastated by his passing. The love that they shared, though immortalized in history, is now tainted with the pain of loss. The beauty of their love story is overshadowed by the cruel reality of Bajirao's untimely death. Conclusion. Chapter 9 of Raw is a powerful and emotional exploration of the decline of a great leader and the inevitable tragedy that comes with it. Bajirao's deteriorating health, his emotional struggles, and his tragic end are depicted with such depth and poignancy that readers cannot help but feel the weight of his suffering and loss. The chapter serves as a reminder of the fragility of life, even for the most powerful individuals. Bajirao's story is not just one of military conquests and triumphs, it is also a story of love, loss, and the inevitability of mortality. Through this chapter, Inamdar presents Bajirao as a complex figure, whose greatness is both his strength and his downfall. His death is a tragedy, not just for the Marathas but for the entire nation. This chapter encapsulates the essence of Bajirao's journey, his rise to power, his unwavering determination, and his tragic end. It serves as a poignant reminder of the fleeting nature of life and the inevitable passage of time, and it leaves readers with a sense of loss that lingers long after the chapter ends. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed this journey into the world of books and stories, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Join us for more powerful stories, timeless classics, and inspiring tales that will enrich your mind and soul. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Let's explore the world of literature together. Your support means the world to us.